but I won't. I will
Hey
send
there,
you.
everyone. What?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fiends podcast. It's so good to see your handsome, beautiful face again. I am Stevie Collier, ya boy, and I'm honored to have my co-host, Andy Peliquin. And today we are honored to have the amazing, the awesome, the wolf-killing Sarah K.L. Wilson. We'll talk about the wolf thing in a little bit. She's the author of Dragon School. You've for sure seen her on Amazon. She is cray-cray right now. And I think it's safe to say you like dragons. Is that right?
Yeah, that's safe.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah?
So I'm Sarah K.L. Wilson. I write YA fantasy primarily. So all my books are good for the younger crowd, although essentially the older crowd really likes it too, to give to their kids and grandkids and etc., or just read it themselves. I write mostly Dragon School is my most popular series, and I also have a new series called Summer Night is the first book in the series, and a couple of Dragon spin-offs from Dragon School, and a new Fae series coming out in January.
That's awesome.
Which looks awesome.
I'm so excited about it. It's made me fall in love with writing again. That's
what we were just talking about before the show starts. I'm actually, I'll keep that for my good news of the week. So Sarah, what we do each podcast is we talk about something cool that happened to us recently. I don't know if that was your cool thing that happened to you recently, but you definitely have some time. Andy and I can go first if you like.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, Andy, do you have something?
Why don't you go, Stevie?
Yeah, so lots of cool things. So everybody here knows I'm into the law of attraction, which is basically thoughts create reality. And I'm pretty big into it. And I actually have had some, so I've kind of moved down on writing to 2,000 words a day and editing 10,000 words a day because I've got some pretty cool financial awesomeness coming into my life because of my law of attraction business. And it's pretty cool because I get to move into a much better apartment. And that is really exciting news. But the best news, so I taught my grandma law of attraction, and she told me I was going to hell for it. So she's super, super Catholic, right? And she told me, Steve, you're going to go to hell if you believe in that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, Granny. And she has stage 3 cancer, right? And this story is like, I'm probably taking you guys to a roller coaster. And I was talking to her one day, and it was just me and her. And she goes, Stevie, you know what? I just don't believe I have cancer. I don't think I do. I don't see myself as it. And I'm just so damn happy, Stevie. She cusses a lot. I'm so happy, Stevie. And I was just like exploding inside. I'm like, Grandma, that's the law of attraction. Keep it up. But I was afraid if I said something about the law of attraction, she would change her mind and just start getting negative. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, I have good news, everybody. From stage 3 cancer to 0, she is cancer free.
Wow.
Yes,
that is very cool.
I'm blown away. So are the doctors. She has no cancer. It turned out she had another cancerous growth, which is gone on her other breast. It's a miracle. It's gone, and she goes to the best cancer doctor in Texas, Kevin J. Anderson. And she's been to 3 cancer doctors. And so it's gone.
What? Kevin J. Anderson?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. That's an author.
Yeah, Stevie.
That's where my brain... It's something with Anderson. It's, I don't know. It's, but she did, anyway, really good news. Man, I'm kind of brain dead now. I've got like chills. So that's amazing news. It's a weight off my shoulders. When
awesome.
Cancer is the worst thing in the world. I've said it. That's the worst thing in the world. That's number one, because it's a waiting process and it destroys the family, but it also brings us closer. So it's kind of a weird thing. Another cool thing on still a very happy note. I started writing something that I've been wanting to write since I was little, but I was too young to write about. It's the darkest thing I've ever written. Incredibly dark. And in fact, when Lisa read it, and Lisa's a pretty dark person, which is why I love her. She's incredibly dark. She's like, Stevie, that was freaking dark. And I've had a blast writing it. I'm not 100% sure if I want to release it under my name. It is released, but I'm not sure if I want to connect my name to it because it could damage my author career. But you know what? Half of me is like, Stevie, just put it out there, man. Who cares what they think? That this is your passion. So I'm half and half. And if you email me on Facebook and you are interested in reading it and you're okay with darkness and like suicide stuff and torture and grotesqueness, send me a message on Facebook and I can probably send you the link. So that is good. It's good news though, because I've been wanting. It's really put the passion back into writing for me. So I had a lot of good news. So that's my thing.
Very cool.
Yes. So Andy, what is your cool thing for the week?
It's been a pretty quiet week, which is awesome for me. I love quiet weeks. I love the boring, simple life. I guess when did we start? When did we have the podcast last week? Tuesday?
Yes. It's been a while.
Okay. So since Tuesday, I've put down about 40-some thousand words in the Cerberus book 3.
Wow.
The new sci-fi series. Yeah, it's going well. If all goes well, I should have it finished early next week, which is amazing because I was trying to finish it before Christmas. So thankfully, I will hit that deadline, and I will get it'll probably be about 2.5 weeks worth of work to finish this book, which is going to be maybe 80,000-90,000 words. I'm not 100% certain, but getting it out of the way means I get to enjoy Christmas with my family. I've got two brothers flying into town. My sister might come visit from Seattle, so it's turning what was going to be a very quiet Christmas into something nice and big and festive. We're a noisy family. Well, everyone else in my family is noisy. I'm not that noisy, but it makes Christmas more fun when they're around to make noise.
Cool.
So I guess that's my good news for the week.
Yeah, that's got the whole family coming together. Well,
yeah,
just the Canadian ones though.
Well, there were a family of 11 siblings, so it's just going to be three of them coming over.
I keep forgetting about how many siblings you have. Thinking about your family hurts my brain, Andy.
And how big we are.
And yeah, that's crazy. I have a very small family, and it's getting smaller. So, because I'm not going to have kids until I'm 50. Does it look like I'm ready for kids? I have a Grr gif at the bottom of my screen. I'm not ready. Well, man, I could take this podcast into
now you're going to have this whole conversation with Lisa when this
Sarah,
is over.
Take it away, Sarah, and tell us about your wolf.
Oh, okay. So I have a wolf on the wall that my husband shot. What was it? 7 years ago. In our defense, they were a huge problem in the area, and it was very helpful to take a couple of them out. But yeah, it's on the wall. Do you want me to try the Christmas tree shot again?
Yeah, please. I want to see the Christmas tree again. Oh, that's a real Christmas tree, right?
Yeah, from the backyard. I live on 50 acres of forest.
Backyard. Wait, did you say from the backyard?
From the backyard, yeah.
See, I just went and was like, is that how Canada? Yeah, is that how Canada is? You're just like, let's go to the backyard and get the Christmas tree, kids. Come on.
Well, it is for us. We live on 50 acres of forest, so
wow.
You just wander in the back and grab yourself a tree, maybe even dinner if you're really lucky.
Was the wolf shot from the kitchen?
No, the wolf was shot from this super cool blind up on top of a cliff. Looked like something out of World War II for snipers over top of a frozen river.
Your husband sounds like he's from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he basically is.
That's funny. So you have a wolf skin. So what is your cool thing for the week or in the past?
Well, I'm reluctant to tell anything too dark after all the darkness we've already had.
Yeah.
But so maybe I'll stick with something light and happy. My cool thing for the week is that for the first time in over a year, I took 2 days off writing this week.
Wow.
Amazing, eh?
You don't take weekends off?
Oh, I do. Yeah. But 2 weekdays off writing where I did like other things. I take my weekends off with my little kids. I have 2 little kids. They're 5 and 7. And yeah.
That's
like a true parent have to count.
That's right. So yeah, I had 2 days off. It was amazing. My neck and back were troubling me, and I don't want to be like so many authors I know who have permanent neck and back problems. So I took 2 days off and cleaned my house. And
how did that work?
That sounds very cool. I'm looking forward to doing the same. Once I finish this book, well, if I finish this book early, knowing me, I'm going to finish the edits on the previous book because that's just the kind of person I am. But I will get at least a week from the 23rd, which is Monday, to the 20 whatever, which is Friday, all completely off with no writing. It's going to be so weird.
Awesome. Well, today we have an excellent video planned for you guys. It involves no nudity like last week. Thank you, Andy. And this week I can never just continue without laughing. There was no nudity. YouTube doesn't allow that. Let's see. Andy, what are you gonna go check the topic for the week? I'm looking for the topic. I gotta pretend. Yes, of course. It's the dangerous deceit of half-truths, which of course I know so much about, but I'm gonna let Sarah take this away and explain it a little bit as to why she chose this topic.
So I chose this topic. I've always enjoyed the kind of setup in fantasy where you have a group of people who can't lie for some reason. I'm going to drive Stevie nuts by bringing up Wheel of Time again, where the Aes Sedai are known to not be allowed to lie, right? Everything they say has to be true, but only for like a given value of true. And I grew up in a household where like telling the truth was super important. But if you say told the truth, but creatively, you couldn't really get prosecuted for it by your parents. So this has always been like a really close to my heart kind of thing. And I'm into the Fae novels these days. And one of the Fae tropes is that like the Fae, the fairy people, the Fae, they can't tell a lie either. So they also like spin the truth and make it dance to mean what they want it to mean. But I mean, technically all the words are true. And I noticed that you guys like to talk about real world stuff. So this is like politics the way it used to be. Like these days people just lie outright, but back in the old days, like your words had to actually be true, although you could present them in such a way as to completely mislead your audience, right? And so I kind of like that in fantasy, because then you're always wondering, like you're always rereading everything people say to see, okay, what did they exactly mean by that? Is it what I think it is, or is it something else?
You know, it's funny talking about that. I find that it's harder for me to write an outright lie than a half truth. Not only for the the protagonists, sort of the heroes, but also the antagonists. As an example, in the Silent Champion series, they're talking to the person who turns out to be absolutely the bad guy. But he never actually straight up lies to them and says, yes, this is this and this is that. He just kind of tells them these half truths, and so it's kind of got me thinking, like, is this some of the way that I've been programmed to think, because that somehow it's better? Because in the end, it's just as bad, because it is deceitfulness, but there's this sort of this ability to rightness of, well, I didn't really lie. It was a little bit of a lie, It
almost feels like you have a sporting chance, like, because if you're smart enough, you can figure out what they really mean by that. Like those who have ears to hear, let them hear, kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you find yourself doing that, like in real life? If you don't want to say something, do you ever just kind of outright lie, or do you kind of give just enough to be like truthful with like half truths? How do you do it?
How do you lie?
In real life, I'm an incredibly bad liar because I have a hard time disguising my opinion.
I'm so there with you. My family actually doesn't tell me any secrets anymore because they know I can't keep them. Because I have a really, really bad consciousness. I see a hypnotherapist now, and he's actually trying to work on my guilt and consciousness. He's like, "Can you relax? You can say white lie. I can do white lies."
Conscientiousness.
Oh, you look great in those jeans.
Yeah, so I love your jacket, Sarah. No, I'm joking.
I always try and find something that I could actually sign on to. Like if someone tells me something, maybe I don't agree with them, but there's some part of what they said that I could probably agree with if I really if I thought about it the right way. So I try and like phrase things that way.
Were your parents military?
No.
They weren't military. Okay.
It's funny. I actually have a pretty easy time lying.
Jesus, Andy.
It doesn't bother me, and that in itself bothers me. So I don't I purposely tell the truth because because lying comes so easily to me. It's like, well, if I went down that road, I would never stop, because it doesn't I don't have that. I don't have Stevie's conscientiousness, essentially his conscience. So it's a thing, let's say I crashed the car, which I haven't done, but just hypothetical example. I would go home and I would tell my wife, straight up, here's what happened, just because it would be so easy to say, oh, someone hit me when I was in the parking lot, and she would have no way to verify it. So it's sort of this thing of, I need to be honest, because if I don't, there's going to be nothing to keep me honest.
Well, that's probably a good policy, because I have people like in my extended family who have lied about things for so long that they don't know what's true anymore. And it kind of like eats away at your ability to remember what's even true.
Yeah. You kind of get into this groove of lying to where it becomes instinctive. And then it's harder to tell the truth, and not because of the consequences that you fear. It's hard to train your brain to be honest, because you so instinctively generate the lie. And we always lie because, we're afraid of the consequences of our actions. But it's such a weird thing to think that eventually you just lie enough and you keep lying.
You create a whole new world. It's basically like you're a fantasy author in your own life.
Hell yeah. And that's something that a lot of sort of one of those, those stupid 10 things writers say or something like that. I saw this list the other day, and they're talking about, I lie for a living. And that's bullshit, because as writers, we are telling the truth. It's the truth of these characters. The characters, everything that we're telling has to be true to the characters that we're writing, or else it doesn't connect. If I was like, right now I'm writing a paraplegic former special ops sniper turned government hitman, right? If I wrote something that was not true to the character, if I made up some bullshit about that, then the readers would just not connect with him. Maybe it would be conscious or subconscious or unconscious, but there would be that cognitive dissonance where they'd be like, no, I'm out. They would lose that connection to the character. So everything we're saying is as honest and genuine as possible. It's just filtered through this lens of whatever character or story we're telling.
And it's kind of true for who you are too, eh? Like you were talking about how maybe I can only write villains this way. Someone asked me the other day, what's the hardest thing about being a writer? And I was like, the hardest thing is I'm not as intelligent as the people I want to write. And sometimes that trips me up.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been there. But Andy, I've actually also seen the whole, writers are just like the perfect liars. And another thing that I would say that, counters that is everything that I write is from personal experience. So it's not like I'm lying. I've actually seen that stuff, or I've imagined it, which I guess could be considered a lie. I don't know, but I don't see it. Like you said, you have to really respect the characters, and you have to go by good for them. Go be good. What am I trying to say, Andy?
Do what's right for them.
Yeah, you gotta
do right by them.
Yeah, do right by them. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, because readers can tell instantly when a character wouldn't do something.
Yeah,
they can tell. Sometimes I wonder if the readers know the characters better than I do.
I think in a way they kind of do, or they get this interpretation of the character that resonates with them almost much more deeply than they resonate with us, because you've got this idea of this character in your head. You kind of know where they were before, where they are now, and often where they're going. So you have this complete picture of them. And that's kind of who they are in your brain, obviously to varying degrees, depending on whether you're a plotter or a pantser or sort of a combination of the two. Whereas the reader, they are experiencing everything for the first time. They have no idea where the story is going, like no idea at all. So they live it much more deeply because it's all they have to go on is the right now as they're reading page after page, sentence after sentence. So they connect with this character, I would say, almost in a deeper, more real way than we ever do.
Oh yeah, especially because
we've got that big picture.
And yet, how people are their choices, basically. And we see our characters with like a myriad of choices that we could let them make. But the reader sees the choice they did make. And sometimes it's hard to remember what choice you had to make.
Yeah. But then it's also filtered through the lens of their perspective, their experiences, their own, thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions, all of that. So when they resonate with this character, the character resonates with them, it creates this emotional bond that I think we as writers never really get. We get the other side of things in the sense that we can put ourselves into the minds of these characters and think how they would respond and, try to react how they would. But the reader, they follow along on this emotional journey, and there's no questioning, or like Sarah says, you've got to figure out, okay, are they going to do this, this, or this? How do they think? And we spend so much time thinking about analyzing these things, because that's what we have to do. We have to analyze the character's reaction, that we get so logical. And readers, all it is just the emotional. It's all, okay, I feel this character's response. I feel them doing this thing that I, as the writer, spent half an hour agonizing. Okay, how would he do this? How would she do that?
Hey, can I ask you guys a question on your podcast?
Of course.
Of course.
Has there ever been a character in fiction that you read and thought, that person is me?
Ooh, yeah, I think I want to cheat and say I wrote one, and I'm saving him for a new series.
Are you thinking Ace Whetstone is you, Stevie?
You knew. No. You knew. Andy knows me. Ace Whetstone. I'm saving him.
He's got the whip collection and everything.
Yes, he's got the whip. In fact, but he's going to be sci-fi though.
So a star whip. There you go. A mind whip. Well, that's Dungeons and Dragons. You know who really resonated with me was the Kaladin that we met at the beginning of the Stormlight Archives. Probably Kaladin in book 1. Over the course of books 2 and 3, he kind of morphed into a different character. But when I read him at the beginning of book 1, this character who this very defiant, rebellious character, and I was like, man, this is the kind of template of a person that I think I would be if I was living in this time.
I love that.
It's not a book though that I've read that the character has reminded me of me. Have you guys seen Parks and Recreation?
Yeah.
Of course.
Who's that boss? The positive boss?
Oh, Rob Lowe. Yeah.
I can't even watch that show with people and they just look at me and I was like, I okay, yeah, I see it a little bit. And
that's funny.
My girlfriend had tears in her eyes with the episode where he goes to see a therapist and he starts talking about all his therapy stuff. And I'm like, Jesus, this is just weird. I also relate a lot to Star-Lord and Spider-Man, depending on the Spider-Man. But I'm definitely a mixture of those guys. So,
I love that.
Yeah, I make decisions like Star-Lord and I joke around a lot like Spider-Man. So, Andy, start calling me Starman.
That's
Spider-Lord.
Definitely not going to happen.
Ooh, yes. Spider-Lord. I'm sorry, Andy. Okay, what about you, Sarah? What about you?
Well, I recently read Holly Black's YA fantasy series, Folk of the Air, and she has this main character named Jude, who I deeply related to. Like, all her motivations, I was like, yeah, that's me. And her super violent extended family, I'm like, that's my family. And then, like, last week, I'm talking to another author, and she's talking to me about that series. I'm like, oh, I loved it so much. And she's like, yeah, it did surprisingly well for a series with such an unlikable main character. And I was like, wait a minute, you found her unlikable? She goes, not only that, she was meant to be unlikable. Like, everyone agrees on this. And I was thinking, this is shocking to me.
That is awesome. You know who I really related to was Loyal the Ogre from the Wheel of Time series.
Ogre?
Like, yeah, Ogier, I think. Ogier, right? And so this guy was this big giant of a character who was soft-spoken, who was an intellectual, who was interested in books and, all of that. But then when pushed to extremes was capable of great violence. And I was just like, holy shit, this is me. Because I've been this big guy since I was young. I was talking with someone about this yesterday. I'm built like a Viking berserker or something, 6.5 feet tall,
like a
big old guy. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Like a body hair and everything.
Yeah.
But I've got a nerd brain. I figure tech out. I don't know anything about building anything, or I lift things really well. But that's kind of so it's like I was kind of born in the wrong body or with the wrong brain. But then seeing this character of Loyal, it was just like I loved it, and I really do identify with the big intellectual characters. You don't see a lot of them in fantasy, in fiction in general, because it's not a common stereotype, and big guys don't traditionally tend to be very intelligent. But then when they do appear, like the character of Sam Hanna, LL Cool J's character in NCIS Los Angeles, he's probably one of my favorite characters in the whole series, because he's this big burly guy, but he's very intelligent. He's deeply religious. He knows things, he's well read, all of that. And so I always identify with those kind of characters.
Loyal saved all the children in the Stone of Tyr when it was attacked. I always love that scene.
Yeah. I really identify with that character. Now, a question from the audience, whenever it pops up. Here we go. Is there a character that you would like to be?
Oh man. So growing up, when you were a kid, and this is a question for everybody, did you like watch TV and you're like, oh, that's me, I'm that one? Like Power Rangers. Oh my God. I would get into fights with people if they're like, no, I'm the red Power Ranger. Like, check yourself. I'm the red Power Ranger. Seriously, like ever since I was little, I was always trying to be someone besides myself, which kind of stemmed from the fact that I wasn't really into sports. I was kind of forced into sports. I was a nerdy kid. Maybe I don't like using the word feminine, but I just enjoyed stuff that the stereotypical women like to do, and I don't like that. So I guess I was always trying to be someone else. So it was always Power Rangers. I wanted to be ninjas. I joined all sorts of things just because I wanted to role play. And it turns out that those are really good qualities, or the telltale signs that you're going to be a creative. So you can create these characters. I actually just read that the other week. So I've always wanted to be something else. And it's just probably in the last 3 years, around the time I met Andy, that I started allowing me to be me and loving myself for who I am. Wow, this is becoming a touchy-feely podcast. Oh my gosh. But I still do often, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, visualize myself as someone cool. Andy, who's yours?
I always feel like I would be a sort of a Wolverine kind of character.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Like if I was in a situation like that, I really identify with just about every single choice he makes. Both the fact, when he sort of loses himself to the blind rage and the violence, and then when he makes that conscious decision to fight that animal nature and be a hero. In fact, that character resonates with me so much that I got it tattooed on my arm. One thing that Sabretooth tells him, eris quod sum, I am what you will become. Basically, he's saying, I'm a monster, and down the road, you're going to end up exactly where I am now. And Wolverine, responds by chopping off Sabretooth's head. But that thing resonated with me in the sense of, there but for the grace of God go I. I could devolve into being these kind of things because I can identify with a lot of that. I'm not an angry person, or maybe I am, but I can understand it. I can understand that urge to lash out, to be violent, to be dominant, to be assertive. I've had to rein myself in for so long as someone who is literally bigger than everybody else in the room. I've had to be quieter. I've had to be unobtrusive. Living abroad, I already stand out because I'm a foreigner in Japan and Mexico. So I can never really be myself, sort of out of this instinctive fear of being the ugly American stereotype. So I've always sat in the corner quietly. I've always listened without saying a whole lot and all of that. But, it's one reason that I've really enjoyed being here in Canada is that everybody, looks and talks and sounds like me. So I can be myself. I can be who I am without having to worry about being overbearing or domineering. And so it's been a huge weight off of my shoulders in the last year and a half since I've come to Canada. It's something I never realized that I had before, because it's never something I had experienced, because I lived abroad my whole life.
I have a question for you, and it just kind of brought it up to me. When you were younger and you were in freaking Japan and you were Godzilla for sure, did you ever find yourself kind of hunkering over a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I see tall people do that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my wife always tells me, I'm just making sure she's not around.
Oh, yeah.
She always tells me, like the other night, or like a couple of months ago, I was going to hang out with some friends at some event, and she was like, just be quiet. Don't break anything. Don't knock anything over. And I was like,
oh my gosh,
what am I? Who do you think I am? I'm not some bull in a china shop. But that's sort of how people, or how she is worried that people will perceive me, because I am big. I've got super long legs, so I can't sit in a normal chair. Like people, they have those high chairs that go with the bar stools. I can't sit in those because I'm literally too big. There's more of my body weight off of the chair than on the chair. So it's really uncomfortable. So there's so much that I, as a large person, have. I've got big old arms and all of that. So everything about me is very big. So it's always like, being quieter and smaller.
Yeah, I remember meeting you for the first time. I was like, oh my God, I look like an Oompa Loompa. For real. And then we took that picture of you holding me. That was even worse. It was like you just had a baby or something. Man, we got turned. No. Did we? I don't know if we did. We both drove. Cool. So, Sarah, who would you want to be, Sarah?
When I was young, I wanted to be a lot of things, but is it narcissistic if I say that I'm happy with myself these days?
That's lame.
Not at all.
That's a great answer.
That is very well adjusted, which is awesome.
It makes my answer of wanting to be Spider-Man and Star-Lord look stupid. Sometimes Moon Knight. I do love Moon Knight.
It's fine. You're waiting till you're 50 to have kids. You got lots of time before you
Maybe
have to
60.
be okay with yourself. That's
Maybe
right.
My brother, he's a scientist or a biologist, and he asked me when we were deciding to have kids, and I was like, well, like 35. He's like, yeah, same here, around the same time. And he's like, well, you know what? We might get lucky and not have any kids because our girlfriends will have lost 95% of their eggs. I've never seen the women like Lisa and Valerie jumped on him like saber-toothed cats. It was hilarious. And I was like, hey, you just can't say stuff like that. And to me, it was, I don't know, taking the podcast on a different thing, but I learned about biology that day. I had no clue, zero clue about that stuff. Anyway, so Andy, should we?
Yeah, let's do the reading.
I better go unlock one of the bolts because I think Lisa might have been outside for a while. Oops. Speaking about saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, somebody's going to get a lesson in biology tonight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Figure out how far up your ass a foot can go.
Oh, yes. So let's get to the reading. We are reading from, I actually have it pulled up this time. I've been doing pretty
Did you need to go answer the door, Stevie? Or
yeah,
no?
I'm going. I don't think she's there.
Go answer the door.
Okay, I'll be right back.
We can be entertaining for a little while he's gone.
Right? That's right. I feel like we can handle it for a couple of minutes. The truth is that Stevie's the personality. I say things, but he does all the ridiculous shit.
That's awesome.
So which of your characters do you identify the most with?
Okay, in my Dragon School series, there's an old crusty guy who serves as the mentor for every new character. His name's Hubrick, and that's who I identify with in this series. He's a little bit cynical about all their romances and their emotions, and that's just kind of my character in the whole thing.
That's very cool. Stevie,
did I hear something about being ridiculous? I don't remember. Thought I did.
I was thinking it. Except the effect is lost on us because there's the green of the alien.
I think it's cool. You know what? Let me turn off chroma so you guys can see my pretty hat.
It looked like you're missing part of your head.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's a good idea, actually.
Sarah, a couple of weeks ago, Stevie was holding up the book, his book. It's got a green cover.
Oh,
and he put it in front of his face to see if it could see through.
Oh, I forgot about that, man. I wish you had let me remain.
He forgot the basic law of physics, which says solid stuff is solid. Numbnuts.
Oh man, you hurt me with that one. I totally forgot. Here's the hat. I got it from Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh,
very
nice.
Cool. I'm pretty sure it's for people who smoke pot. It was in a weird pot shop. I've told you guys about the story where I wanted to buy peanut butter in Europe, but it turned out it was not real peanut butter. I was like, man, this is light, and it's for hiding your weed. They laughed at me. I was like, okay, yes, I get it. I'm a dweeb. I don't know. Okay, so you guys,
That's
Sarah, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about what we're about to read?
Okay, so this is from my new book, Fae Hunter, that's coming out in January 7th. And this scene comes after our hero, a girl named Allie, has used a magical cage to entrap 3 Fae. They're like man-sized humans, but they're Fae. So kind of like elves almost. But this cage has shrunk them down to like hand-sized. And it's basically like a bird cage, and they're in there, and she sets it down on her mom's sewing table and goes out and does some chores and comes back, and this scene is right when she has returned into the house.
All right. Which do you want to read, the narrative, Sarah, or do you want to read one of the voices?
I'll read the narrative.
All right, then Stevie, because you do so well at the female voices, you got the main character. I got the others.
Thank you, Andy.
So I'm just the female. What is the female's name?
I,
because it's first person, or Allie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I'll read the narrative, but at the talking, that's when you're going to come in, if I understand correctly.
Okay, she's just like a regular girl, not gruff, not anything crazy.
Yes, practice those high octaves. Here we go. I opened the door of the cottage, frustrated to find the fire down to nothing but embers and not a single candle lit. I'd finished my work in town, returned the goats to their pens, and I was head to toe in mud and soaked to the skin. Not to mention that my arms hurt like anything and my fever was getting worse. I built up the fire, lit a candle, and set to stripping off my wet clothing. It wasn't easy to do with my broken arm splinted and bandaged. It couldn't bend, and the fingers on that hand were swollen and thick. It needed rest, but I didn't have time to rest it. I was down to my underthings when my blindfold slipped off as I was tugging my shirt over my head. I bent to recover it and then gasped. The cage I'd set beside the sewing kit was the only thing I could really see without the blindfold. It still glowed a bright but eerie greenish blue. Dripping from the cage out onto the worn wooden floor of our cottage was black tar-like blood, and in the center of the cage, the Fae Leader stood with black blood smeared across his clothing. A sewing needle streaked in black in one hand, and a growl bubbling up from his throat. Under his feet lay his fallen comrades, pins and needles scattered in their blood and sticking up from their backs.
I see I have a pair of new pin cushions. What have you been doing while I was gone?
I asked, aghast.
Slaying my enemies.
He said with a fearsome curl to his lip.
What did you expect?
I leaned down so my face was level with the cage, and I could feel my eyes widening at his glamour. As his glamour showed the full effect of perfect immortal features as he sneered at me.
Not this,
I said, swallowing. My heart was sinking. I'd counted on having 3 of them, 3 Fae to put back into the Starstone Circle, 1 to bring back each of the humans within. I hadn't counted on them killing each other. Fuel, Allie. Use that disappointment as fuel. My eyes were stinging with frustration despite my reminder as I reached into the cage. He jabbed my hand with the needle.
Ouch!
Again and again, his movements were too quick for me to guess in that strange, almost stilted and yet fluid way the Fae had. It was as if they were just jumping over little bits of time and space. I pulled my hand out as fast as I could, cursing.
Fine. They can rot in there with you. Enjoy the smell of putrefaction.
I sucked the wounds on my fingers.
Let me out of the cage,
he said grimly.
Let me out, and I will not slay you too.
I snorted.
You're holding a sewing needle. You're going to slay me with that?
He waggled his eyebrows.
It's not the size that counts.
Keep telling yourself that.
I muttered. I fumbled through the sewing kit, my hand stinging from where his needle had jabbed it. I could swear it had hit bones in my fingers. There it was. I grabbed the stitch ripper from my mother's kit and struck fast through the bars of the cage, knocking the pin from the Shining One's hands. It flew through the bars and landed on the floor where I snatched it up. The handkerchief was also on the ground, spotted in black blood. I carefully wiped the needle on it and replaced it in my mother's kit. When I looked up, the Fae had another 2 needles in both his hands and a ferocious expression on his face.
I guess this serves me right for setting you down next to something as dangerous as a sewing kit,
I said wryly.
You can't keep me caged forever,
he said.
Can't I?
A look of horror stole over his face. He didn't know how long. He didn't know how long this cage would keep him any more than I did. He rallied, posing with one pinpoint to the floor and the other slung over his shoulder for all the world like a tiny and incredibly attractive child of a god. His open jacket even rippled in an imaginary wind, and his tousled hair looked like took on blue glints like raven feathers.
What's your name?
I asked, and he bristled. He leaned forward as he hissed.
As if I would tell you.
It's going to be hard to talk to you without a name.
I said dryly.
I suppose I could name you. I named the goats that were born this spring after flowers. That seems to fit. You can be Daisy.
He hissed again.
Why did you throw the handkerchief out of the cage, Daisy?
I asked.
I thought you wanted to avoid touching the iron bars.
It fell out in the fight,
He said, and his chin held up in an arrogant fashion. He was so incredibly pretty like that. Were those the edges of tattoos creeping up his neck? It was hard to tear my eyes off his beauty, even knowing that he was actually nothing like how he seemed, and that he just slaughtered his 2 friends and was standing on their corpses.
and now I have no way to guard myself except with the bodies of my slain.
Mm-hmm.
I said, slipping my blindfold on and looking for some dry clothing that wouldn't hurt my arm to put on.
You're not entirely unattractive without clothing.
He commented. I leaned towards the cage, pulled down the blindfold, and growled.
Eyes to yourself, Daisy.
He laughed, a mischievous, bitter laugh.
I suppose you may call me Scoville.
Is that your name?
He sat down on the bodies, cross-legged, resting his twin pins across his lap.
In the Feywild, names have power. I could direct your every action with the use of your name. I could bend your will to mine, could make you my plaything, dancing to my every whim, licking my boots, kissing the soles of my feet.
Whatever floats your boat.
I muttered, fighting with my jerkin and leggings. It was not easy to dress with one hand or with the blindfold only half on so I could keep track of Scoville.
You could just lie about your name.
I can't lie,
He said, and the way he said it made it sound like he was either joking or trying to seduce me.
Does that melt hearts?
Does truth excite you?
He returned.
I can make it dance, but I cannot violate it.
I rolled my eyes.
Then I guess you don't know its true name.
He smiled as if that was a novel idea.
What does Scoville mean? Does it have something to do with the scar on your lip?
I cinched my belt and moved his cage to the floor by the fire and then collapsed on the bearskin rug there. I was cold now and shaking. My arm felt hot. The fever had me in its grip.
In my world, it's a joke. It means untrustworthy.
I thought you just told me you can't lie.
Did I?
He asked with a mischievous smirk.
But did I mean deceive? Or did I mean prostrate myself on the ground?
You meant deceive.
I said blearily.
I've heard it both ways. Love the reference there.
He said with a smirk, leaning back comfortably as if he were on a silken couch and not finding repose on the corpses of his friends. I put his cage in my line of sight so I could keep an eye on him without moving. I needed him to stay alive. I needed any knowledge he had about the Fae so I could destroy them. I closed my eyes just for a moment and slipped away.
Very, very cool. Tell me that I've heard it both ways was a purposeful reference to Psych.
Absolutely my favorite show.
Good.
To what?
Good. A show Psych.
Oh, with it's like the white guy and the black guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Man, that's old, right? Came out a while ago, like 2009, 2010.
It started around then, but
Yeah.
it just ended like 2 years ago or something.
Really?
And that was the thing. Every time he mispronounces something, he says, "Oh, I've heard it both ways."
That's right.
I auditioned for that show, actually. That's why I started watching it so I could do the audition for it. I didn't get it. I didn't get a call back, but then I got hooked on it. And I don't think I finished season 1, but I had it on my iPod. Remember iPods? Not iPhones, iPods.
Yeah.
So that's how old that is, I guess. Well, Sarah, that was freaking awesome. I really enjoyed that. I had a question, though. I had a question. I can't remember. So Scoville?
Mm-hmm.
What? So he's an attractive person.
Yeah, well, if you're into YA Fae fantasy at all, you know the Fae are like ridiculously hot. So most of the stories are about how they're so ridiculously hot, and there's these girls, the main characters just fall head over heels for them. But my story kind of sets it on its head. They're ridiculously hot still, but my girl's trying to kill them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Good idea. I like that. I like
Thank
changing
you.
things up. Bizarre Blades does that too. Just go read my 1 stars. So
well, maybe you'll be reading mine too. Who knows?
for sure, let's go read them right now. No, what that is a good idea though, Andy. If the author agrees, the guest author, we like read 1-star review from them. So
that would be silly.
Mine have
genius.
profanity in them, and I can't get them off. And I'm just like, what are you people? How is this allowed? Anyway, oh, that's a good question. What is
The
this
needle.
profile picture of? Is that
I hadn't thought about what they're made. They're sewing needles, but I hadn't thought about
Probably the steel.
Yeah.
stainless steel?
I probably should think that through because he's not going to be the only one who wonders about that. See, the thing is, another thing about the Fae is they've got a problem with iron. It burns them.
Okay, yeah, I guess
So
that's why Rajin was asking.
Rajin, I'm so glad you asked because now I'll make like a little edit to that before I publish. And I'll make sure they're like copper sewing needles.
Ooh, yeah.
It was a good catch. I didn't even catch that. Why is she? That's it. Why was she blindfolding herself?
Oh yeah, this is chapter 26, so a lot's happened already. It's pretty quick paced novel. She lost her sight early on, and there's a magic blindfold that kind of shakes things up a bit there. Yeah, spoiler alert.
I got you. Andy, did you have your swords crossed last time? Rebecca's
Stevie, my swords have always been crossed.
I want to cross my sword with yours. I just need to come out there, and I need to buy a sword first too from Cold Steel.
You need to come out here after crossing swords. Like you're just feeding the shit to Rebecca.
She probably
I know
fun with that. It was too easy.
Andy has way more reach than you'd ever have, so you'd be in real trouble in any kind of a sword showdown.
Was that a
that's
joke?
That's definitely what we were talking about. No, she was taking it like we were talking about actually.
I'm taking it straight. I'm
okay,
yeah,
straight.
That's not how Stevie meant it.
Sarah, we brought you over to the dark side.
About the way Stevie said that.
Well, I have something to show you guys. Rebecca was kind enough to make me a present. I really liked it. Andy, it's a picture of both you and I. It's super sweet. Let me pull it up real quick.
I'm already dreading this.
Oh, you're gonna love it. Oh, wait, there is a cool one though that she did, which I appreciated. Okay, so I'm gonna share screen real quick. Make sure there's no tabs I don't want people to see. Okay. Don't show this. And which one is it? Okay. It's that. Can you see it?
All right.
Is it working?
Is
that working?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was beautiful. Honestly, I'm very happy with my stance in this picture, and it takes a lot of time to cut people out of screen. So bravo.
I will say that is a very, very unnatural shoulder position. So the fact that you've achieved it is like major props to you, Stevie.
And my top abs poke out, and it looks like I have a gut.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna call that from now on. My top abs.
My top abs. That did sound awfully narcissistic. My top abs, Andy. My top abs. Meeting Lisa though, I gained the Lisa 20 is what I like to call it because she's a baker. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god. Don't date bakers, people. Because it took me 3 months of saying no dessert. Okay, give me that apple pie. Give me that pumpkin pie. You know, I have pie every. Andy, take away
Stevie?
the mic. Indigo Montoya's, who took up Indigo Montoya. Hold on, Indigo.
It's supposed to be Inigo Montoya.
From
from the
Princess
Princess
Bride.
Bride.
Oh wow, I've never seen that movie.
You heathen, go watch it tonight.
I thought it was a girl movie.
Okay. How old is Stevie?
Guess.
20s.
Well, younger than I thought. If you've never seen Princess Bride or Red Wheel of Time, you're what, 15?
No, I'm 27. I just don't.
Stevie, go watch Princess Bride. I've tried to show that movie to my wife 3 times. She's fallen asleep. She's fallen asleep before the duel with the Sicilian every single time.
She should like her. It's Andre the
No.
Giant, right?
There is
Come
nothing in it.
on.
There is nothing in it that she likes.
That's weird. I thought all girls would like that.
I don't know that it's a girl movie per se, but it's definitely like a lovers of comedic fantasy movie. I grew up on that. I was like 8 the first time I saw it.
It's like hardcore. It's hardcore romance in all the right ways. It's comedy. It's fantasy. It is slapstick. It is as much Monty Python as it is, Lord of the Rings. It's an amazing movie all around.
There's even a little dark fantasy. There's that torture scene, They got to bring him back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And rodents of unusual size.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, Sarah,
Stevie,
what's up?
go watch the movie tonight.
I will.
Go watch
No,
Princess Bride with Lisa tonight.
I think Lisa's seen it, so it'll be good to watch it. So Sarah, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook, Sarah K.L. Wilson, or Instagram, Sarah K.L. Wilson. Or if you happen to be on Discord, if you're a video gamer, I've got the Dragon School Discord server.
Awesome. That's great. The Discord server is a really good idea. I just hear they're hard to get going. We need to keep up with one for Fantasy Fiends, but we started, but
they're way too chaotic for me.
They are chaotic.
Aren't you guys with Aethon Publishing? Or Andy
Andy
is?
I am.
They have a Discord now too, so
Are you
end up on it?
Are you with Aethon, Sarah?
I am not. No.
Okay. Awesome. Well, go check out Sarah K's book. I mean, she's got so many, and I would say Dragon School would be a good place to start, right, Sarah?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. I mean, you can't go wrong. You heard what we just read to you with our beautiful voices, didn't you not? Awesome. Well, Sarah, you also get the award for nicest smile. I have to say, you have a very nice smile. Andy, you got work to do.
And do you guys think you might want to narrate for me someday?
Of course.
Deal.
Yeah.
Only if Stevie does all the girls' voices.
I'll just have to start taking estrogen.
That's how this partnership works. Stevie, you just got to lead into your feminine energy, which, as you mentioned earlier, it's already right there. You love all that stuff.
I know. Why is my screen blinking? Anyway, yeah, I do love all that stuff. Anyway, so I guess that's it for this podcast. Sarah, we hate to see you go, but it's late and you're kind of lingering. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. It's been a blast. It's been such a privilege to be on your podcast, and I better not linger anymore.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, thank you very much for being on the Fantasy Fiends podcast. Sarah, you have to come back on. So just tell Andy next time you have a new release and we'll get you signed up. And we wish you much prosperity in your future and success with your books. Guys, thank you so much for watching the Fantasy Fiends podcast. If you would like to help us out and you want to support the channel, we highly suggest you subscribe as well as share it. So if you have a Facebook, please share it. If you have an email list, whatever, please share the Fantasy Fiends podcast. Andy and I are incredibly busy and we're trying to keep the show going. So if you do help us grow so we can get this monetized, that would help us out a lot. And I feel like a beggar, but it does really help if you share, like, and comment. So, guys, thank you so much for being with us for so long, and we hope you're having a nice holiday season, and we love you all, and we'll see you next week.
We will see you next week with Sean Smith, the last guest of the year before we go on break for the holidays. Good night.
Eyebrow.
Awkward ending.
Straight here.
Let's see how long it takes.